Look at me. I'm alive. This lighting sucks. Give me a second. Ignore my background. I've been doing stuff. Hi guys, I'm back. And today's video is going to be a bit different because recently I've been really into reading. Now I haven't really done a video about books, reading, or anything like that, but that is currently my hyperfixation, and so that is the content you are going to get, probably from now on. So I will be doing a quarterly reading wrap-up. I will be showing you my reading journal and all of the books that I read in this first quarter of the year, and sort of get into my April TBR, all the books I want to read next quarter, and just sort of talk about how I got back into reading and how I've been doing. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just gonna apologize now for any wobble that there is. My gooseneck isn't exactly stable, and I don't have the right mount for my phone. So this is our setup. My phone is hanging on for dear life, but I think we can do it. All right. So you guys have never seen my reading journal. So first I'm going to just sort of give you a tour, and then I will, near the end, sort of talk about my March reading wrap up. So this is the first page, the cover page. I have like a little window here, and this is my cat. I got a cat while I was on my hiatus, and her name's Nova, and I love her. I will insert a picture here. But I got this page idea from two people on TikTok, and I will mention their TikToks in the video as well, so you guys can sort of go to where I got this reference from. But I'm absolutely in love with like my gold pens, and you will see that more throughout these spreads. Then I have my bookshelf, which is just a shelf of all the books I've read this year so far. And then they're color-coded by their star rating, and we will get into that more once we get to like the key and stuff. And here you see Nova again, another plant that was here. And then I have little decorations all along the shelves, and I'm actually a lot further than I thought I would be, and I will get into that later as well. So then we have my rating system. I first go off the call pile rating system, and then if I feel like that isn't really correct, I'll adjust it more, because I tend to give things ratings that don't deserve those ratings. So I'll do it higher, and then I'll be like, it doesn't feel like a 4.5 star book, so let me just lower a couple things that I feel confident lowering, and then I sort of use this to help guide my call pile system. And I do half stars as well. Then I have the spice rating system, which pretty self-explanatory. If there's no spice, no peppers, then it's 1 to 2 scenes, 3 to 4 scenes, 4+ scenes, or like less than 25% of the book, but it's still quite a bit of spice. 25 to 50% of the book, and more than 50% of the book. And some of you may think that this isn't very spicy, but for the books I read, it is, because I don't usually prefer a lot of spice, but it happens. One of my favorite books is actually one of the spiciest books I've read. Actually, 2 of my favorite books. That's crazy. We'll get into that more though in the wrap up. And this is the key. It sort of has like a dot grid guide, modified half, third, half, full, all this. And then the 7th is for like when I do calendars. And then later I color code by genre, and that's what this is for. And I have like the Crayola, like what's it called? Marker set, fine tip or whatever. And I use that, and that's why I have them numbered as well. And this is the star rating that I use for the bookshelf. So as you can see, I haven't really had a lot of books that are below 3 stars, but I'm reading a book right now that's probably gonna be like 1 or 2 stars, but that's a discussion for another time. And then I have the book cover guide, so when I print out book covers and put them in the journal, they're all the same size. And so I have how many squares there are and the measurement in centimeters and inches. Then I have my wish list, which is books I want to buy, the books I've hauled. I need to add another one to this list. Hold on, give me a second. One of my friends actually bought this for me because it was in the clearance section of our bookstore. It was like $5. So she bought this for me. Lessons in Chemistry. And I've wanted to read it, so might as well. And for books hauled, I write the title, obviously. The author, how much it cost me, but this was a gift. I got it yesterday. What's the date today? Crap. What's the date today? I got it the 4th, I think? 4th. And I'm going to keep this because I do have to write more information about this later. But for the wish list, I do title, author, price. So, like, it's usually the max price I can find it, but, like, still cheap. So it's not going to be like a $30 book, but it's not the cheapest I could find it. Because a lot of these, you can find them on thrift books for cheaper. And, like, Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, as you can see, I got it for $2.64. So it's a lot less than the estimated $10, because I thrift most of my books. Then here is my 2024 reading goal. So my goal was to read 24 books this year, and I'm already at 18, which is wild for first quarter. I was not expecting to read that many books, obviously, so I might actually have to add another page. And this is where the genre color coding comes into play. Let me go back to my key. So as you can see, my favorite genre is romance. And this 11 one here, that was 1984 by George Orwell. The only one with that I wouldn't consider like a romance book. But we have the Shatter Me series in here. We have some ACOTAR. Like, I like romance. I love romance. Then we have banned books, which is just a list of, not necessarily banned books I want to read, but a lot of popular banned books that I potentially would read in the future. But Terabithia, I really want to read. And I've already read 2, Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda and 1984, which I wasn't a fan of 1984, but that's just me. It's not the type of book I like. And then I also want to read Percy Being a Wallflower. I want to reread The Outsiders, because I read that in middle school like everyone else did. The Odyssey, Twilight. I've never read Twilight, so I'm not really looking forward to it, but we'll see. And then some of these as well, I do want to read the Hunger Games series as well. I'll dabble in the rest, though. Then we have the alphabet challenge. I don't know if you can tell, but some are in pencil, some are in pen. The ones that are in pencil are the ones I plan to read for that letter. That can always change. And the ones in pen are the ones I have already read. So we got Bookworm and the Beast, Destroy Me, Fracture Me, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, The Kiss Quotient, Me Before You, Restore Me, Shatter Me, Unravel Me, and Yours Truly, all in pen. So those are the ones I've completed. I don't know if I'll be able to get this one done this year. I'm going to be honest. Then we have a Love and Bloom challenge. This is sort of a romance reading challenge I made up because I like romance books and I wanted to expand my horizons while still sticking to something I know I like. And so for every month there is a different theme or prompt, and the theme / prompt is here. So we got New Beginnings, Fake Relationship, Historical Romance, Friends to Lovers, Royalty and Nobility, Summer Romance, Second Chance Romance, Paranormal Romance, Office Romance, Fall Romance, Enemies to Lovers, and Holiday Romance. Now I haven't read a lot of these tropes already, but they just weren't the books that I dedicated to that trope. Here I actually changed it because I couldn't find the book that was originally here. Like, I just didn't have access to it. And I changed it to Yours Truly, and I ended up loving that book. So it all works out. So upcoming is Art of Being Normal, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and Love and Gelato for the second quarter. And then when I'm done with the year, I'm going to paste the book covers here. And if you're wondering why this sheet's blank, it's because I added this alphabet challenge in later once I realized I was definitely going to read more than 24 books. Because, you know, an alphabet challenge wouldn't be possible with only 24 books. But that's why I like this binder system, because I can add things where they make sense. Then we have this daily reading tracker. And so every day I read, I add a color based on the type of book I read. I do need to fill out some of these. I'm not exactly caught up. But as you can see, I went through sort of a reading slump here. I had some personal problems that I couldn't really read. And right now, I'm listening to an audiobook that I'm not very fond of, and I might DNF it. But it's so short, I'm like, what's the point of me not finishing it, you know? Then we have my reading log. So these are all the books that I've read this year. with the title, author, start date, end date, and their star rating. And then here, this is another page I added that I actually need to finish, is books of the year. So once again, these are all the books I read this year, but it's the book covers rather than just the names of them. And I've seen this spread on so many other people's journals, and I really liked the look of it. So, and here we have that gold pen again. I still need to do the outlines, but that's fine. Then we have my monthly favorites, and I do still need to put the book cover for March in here, but it's going to be The Kiss Quotient because that was my favorite book in March. If you can't tell, I have a favorite series. This is the series that I blame for my reading addiction, actually. Then we have Book of the Year. This is a little bit of a different twist on the book bracket. I think it's more fair because you're not putting books only against one other book. You're putting every book against every book. So I got my January, February, March already, Kiss Quotient, Court of Soul Flames, Court of Wings and Ruin, and then they're all going to be put up against each other at the end to see what my favorite book was, what my least favorite, etc. Then we have my genre statistics. So this one might be a bit confusing because you're like, you only read 18 books, there's more than 80 tallies. But that's because books have multiple genres. So if it's a romance, fantasy, dystopian, sci-fi like Shatter Me is, I'm putting a tally for every single one of those, which is why you see all these different tallies. I only read 2 books in January, only read 2 books in February, and then the rest of the 16 books were March, and you will see that later. I didn't actually start this reading journal until late February, and you will see on the daily reading tracker I have, it starts at March. But I still have like statistics for what I read because I keep track of all that on Notion as well. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, I like romance. Then we have star statistics, sort of the same concept, except everyone is only going to get 1. And my sort of rule for this is if it's 3.5 stars, I'm not going to round up, I'm still going to round down. So that would be 3 stars. It's whatever the first number is. So like 4.75 would still be 4 stars. And I know that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but that's just what I go by. This is not going to be enough page for the end of year statistics, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. Then we got my TBR, and this is my all-time TBR. It's not just my physical TBR. I want to emphasize that. This is every book that I've seen has been recommended to me, and I'm like, I want to read that. So we got a little Dutch door here, and there are a lot of books. So I think 168 of just like the all category. Then we have a quote here, and we have all the books on my Kindle. So the stuff your Kindle days, I make sure to write down any books that I get just so I know that they exist and I know that I need to read them. And this one has an additional 169. And then if I finish them, I just give them a check here. If I want to read them soon, I put high for priority and then check for... It's sort of self-explanatory, and the reason I have a quote here is so I can add more pages without disrupting the numerical order. And then I have a quote here as well. Then we have my physical library, and this is why I wanted to keep lessons in chemistry over here because I haven't updated this. So these are all the books that I have a physical copy of. And I know it's not a lot, but once again, I just started my reading journey, and I'm a broke college student, so it makes sense. And I usually do paperbacks, but there wasn't a paperback version of this book available, and it was only $5, so I'm gonna cop that. Then we have my series tracker. So these are all the series I want to read this year. I might not end up reading Crescent City because I do have the first book in the Throne of Glass series, so I might read that one instead. But I do want to get into Percy Jackson. I finished ACOTAR, and I'm currently going through Shatter Me. Me Before You is also kind of iffy because they're kind of a standalone turned into a series, so I don't feel like it's necessary to read the rest, but I do want to because I did really like Me Before You. But then I have my author backlist, so these are the authors I want to read all their works of. An exception to Sarah J. Maas, because I know she has like a Catwoman book. I'm not reading that. I'm sorry, not reading it. Jennifer Niven, I've read a lot of her books, but I want to reread a lot of them as well. And then Helen Huang, Kiss Quotient, I just discovered that book and was like, okay, I love her writing. putting that on the list. Then we have upcoming releases. I don't have a lot on here because I'm not into a lot of series that other people are into. So I don't have like the next book in the series on here, which that's why it's kind of empty. We have my DNF graveyard, and I do not have any DNF books this year, so that's completely empty, and I'm kind of scared that that page is going to go to waste, but I mean, that's kind of a good thing, right? Then here is when we get into March, so this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty of my reading wrap-up, but this is going to be just for March, because once again, I didn't start this journal till March. So we got my daily reading log. So every time I read a book, every single day, I would write it down. So as you can see, like, on the 5th, I read 3 different books. Not all the way through, but I read different pages of those different books. And that's why it is a longer list and a different list than my actual finished reading log. So these are just books I finished. These are books I'm currently doing. And I'll put, like, the point I end at as well. This, oh my god, I love this spread, especially because I read so many books. I had to add a little flap here. Also, don't read the reviews if you don't want spoilers for any of these. If you don't care, feel free. But they do have spoilers. So here I color-coded them based on the book that it is, and then I drew out how long it took me to read. Some of them, like The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Song of Achilles, those I started before March, but I just put them down here where they align. And I just love that template so much. I wasn't expecting to read so many books once again, so this was very last minute decision. So the first book I finished was Song of Achilles, and my sort of template is I have pages, format, genres, started date, finish date, the compile rating, the star rating, spice rating, and then I write a short synopsis and then the review in the title sort of in the style that it is on the cover. And then I'll obviously paste a picture here. So this is just going to be a quick wrap up of my ratings and the spice rating as well. So Song of Achilles I gave 3.5 and I gave it 1 spice rating. And I know 3.5 is not a lot, but I just couldn't get emotionally attached to the characters like some other people did, so I didn't cry. And I read this book because I was told it would make me cry, and I like books that make me cry, but it didn't make me cry, and I was very emotionally detached from the characters, so I didn't really, you know? So that's why, it's still a good book, don't get me wrong, but it's not what I was expecting, which is why the rating is so low. Then we have Destroy Me. I finished Shatter Me the month before and actually put on TikTok asking if I should continue the series because I did not like Shatter Me. But everyone said I should, so I read Destroy Me, the novella next. Loved it more than I liked Shatter Me, which is wild because it's a novella. But this made me start shipping Warner and Juliet immediately. So I rated that 4 stars, 0 spice. Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This one took me a while to read because it's a physical book and I was annotating it. And it was the first book I ever annotated. So yeah, it took me a hot minute. But I gave that 4.5 stars and then 2 on the spice scale. Then we got Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda. Absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 stars, 0 spice. And then Yours Truly, 5 stars, 1 spice. Because there's just like 1 scene. I hate third act conflicts, but I still love this book. 1984, I sort of already talked about this, but I gave it a 3.5 stars and 0 spice because, you know, there's scenes, but it's kind of a faded black situation. Then The Kiss Quotient. Loved this book. It was 5 on both the star rating and the spice scale, which is interesting because I don't usually like spice, but it was such a well-written book. And I think something I said in the review was that despite the spice, you could still tell they were actually into each other, which is wild to me. Because some spicy books, you just can't tell. You think they're just going at it all the time. Then we have Unravel Me. I gave that one a 4.5. Fracture Me, I gave that a 4. I don't like Adam, so I tried to not take that into account, but I can't stand him. Ignite Me, I gave a 4, and I was told it would go down a hill after this. And I think they're right, because this is 3.5 again. And then, as you can see, I kind of stopped reading the series. Bookworm and the Beast, I gave it 2-star 2 spice because it was a very predictable book. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, if you couldn't tell by the title, but it is basically copy-paste Beauty and the Beast. I knew everything that was going to happen because of that. So this is the one 2-star book I have. Then we have The Summer I Turned Pretty. Also wasn't a big fan. I think a big factor was their age. They were just so young. I couldn't get into it. So I gave that 3 stars. And then we have my first quarter statistics. This is where we really get into the wrap-up. So I read 18 books, a total of 6,706 pages. And then I also broke down the pages per book. So the most books in the page range, I guess, was 400 to 499 pages. Then we have less than 300 pages. We have all those novellas and stuff in there. 300 to 399, which also had 5. And then we have more than 700, which only had 2 books. Then we got genres. This is in the order of how many there were. All of the books I read were fiction. 17 out of 18 were romance. Then we have young adult at 11, fantasy at 11, dystopian at 7, contemporary at 6. Those are a lot of the romances. Science fiction at 2, adult, historical, political, retelling, and classic all at 1. Then the maximum page count was A Court of Silver Flames at 768, and the minimum was Fracture Me, once again a novella, at 76. And I mostly read audiobooks because I'm in a lot of art classes, and those art classes are about 3 hours long. So I listen to audiobooks, which is why it's so big. And then ebooks because I get books off of Libby. Physical book, that was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Then I have my star ratings broken down as well. 3 5 stars, 3 4.5 stars, 5 4 stars, 5 3.5 stars, 1 3 star, and then 1 2 star. And this is where all the graphs are and everything, so you can really see the breakdown. And then the 5-star books were A Court of Silver Flames. Loved that book. That had spice in it. That was very high spice, actually. Simon versus the Homo Sapien Agenda, 0 spice. And then Kiss Quotient, high spice. So I'm just like, I'm all over the place. And then we have my April spread, which I haven't really started. So we'll get into that later. But I want to go back and talk about the books I read before I started this journal. So the ones that didn't get those reviews. And that is up to 5. So I read 5 books. We got A Court of Wings and Ruin at 4 stars. Shatter Me at 3.5 stars. A Court of Frost and Starlight at 3.5 stars. A Court of Silver Flames at 5 stars. And Me Before You at 4 stars. I love all those books, so my rating system is probably going to change throughout the year, but that's okay. So yeah, that was my first quarter reading wrap-up. Also, if you want to know what pen I use this Sharpie pen. It doesn't bleed through the pages like I thought it would, and it also dries down really well and doesn't smudge because it dries down so well, and it also goes over pencil really well. I've tried using Pilot G2. Oh, where is it? I can't find it. I've tried using the Pilot G2, but I've learned it just doesn't go over pencil very well. So, yeah, that's my reading journal. Alright, so that was my first quarter reading wrap-up. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. If you want more videos like this, let me know in the comments below. And hopefully I will be doing a second quarter reading wrap-up and just more content centered around books in general, because that is what I love. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!